Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Followers, likes, double tap. Now they control your life, control
What's
your
up,
life.
everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the 817 podcast. Man, EJ, it was a slow news week.
Very.
It felt slow during the week, and then in like prepping and reading back through everyone's websites, it was like there wasn't a ton that really happened.
Everyone was getting ready for school, I guess.
Yeah, maybe everyone was just a little overwhelmed with everything happening around schools. But it just felt like it drug a little bit.
Yeah, this is hands down I guess you could say this is a year of doing this.
Yeah.
This is the slowest week of all of our weeks we've ever covered.
Yeah.
But we're going to still do a show for you, and we have 2 stories that we're going to go over.
Right.
We're still going to do our wins and losses, so we're going to make something happen because there's a good conversation to have on one of these stories that we're excited for, the big story. But how do you want to set us up? You want to do the Fort Worth report one and kind of walk through that?
Yeah, let's do it. So something that we did touch on last week when talking about the budget schedule was the Crime Control Prevention District, the CCPD funding, which this year will be about $95 million from our sales tax in the area towards the police department. That budget was unanimously approved this last week, with no members of the public signing up for the public hearing. It just kind of like leaves a bad taste of a lot of the article talks about like Maddie Parker saying that she wants it to be more transparent, and clearly there's a barrier here with a meeting that I believe took place at like 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. So like, how are people going to be able to get to that? And I don't know. I mean, obviously we didn't go. We didn't sign up because we didn't have the time, whatever.
Heck, I didn't even know what was going on.
I mean, you can't even find the budget's not even on their website.
Yeah.
How is somebody supposed to engage with it, even if they wanted to? You can't. There's nothing to engage with.
Yeah, yeah. And looking at it, it says the largest increase in funding was recruitment and training.
Which that's cool. Like,
Yeah.
I want them to recruit. I don't know how to say this delicately. We want them to recruit good people for very obvious reasons.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a lot of money. 93 million?
94.9 million,
Yep.
which is an increase of 8.3 million over last year, which I guess is also a good sign of the health of the local economy, that even after 2020, like, we still have grown.
Yep.
But I don't know, what are some of your takeaways from this?
I guess nothing too different. I'm just looking at kind of they did a great job kind of breaking it down. What got more funding? You got equipment and technology infrastructure. They didn't. Some of the funding went down around vehicles. I mean, because obviously the nicest vehicles in Fort Worth are police cars.
And you can tell which vehicles are funded by this because they have the little sticker on the back that says funded by CCPD.
I mean, if you asked 100 Fort Worthians, did this happen?
If you asked 1,000, if you asked 100,000,
Yeah.
how many would you get? 10?
Yeah, yeah. So it's just crazy how. But I think this goes. You were kind of going to use it as your loss. Sorry to bring it up, but the Betsy Price campaign and how subtle their power actually is. Like, all the power. Like, there's a front that we're all nice. There's a front that we're all in this together.
Nonpartisan. Yeah.
And then like, oh wait.
So from the article, Tamara Hutcherson, who is an organizer for the Texas Jail Project, spoke to the board with concern about the budget's accessibility. They said, the last time I checked, the CCPD website doesn't even have the proposed budget posted. One of the goals of the CCPD, as stated on the website, is to provide opportunities for citizens to learn about it. they feel like there are no active steps to engage the community through either social media to inform the public or in any other way. And that's kind of what we're echoing. And, Maddie Parker starts the article with a quote about how she wishes more people were engaged with it. And I'm like, Maddie Parker, you started a podcast. And like, I'm glad that you're taking steps towards transparency, but how hard would it have been last week or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago to do a podcast episode that was literally breaking down the CCPD budget and trying to get people to engage with it? Like, you have the resources right in front of you, and like, you show that maybe you're trying to make some efforts towards transparency, but you didn't actually do it. And so that's just like those are just really empty words. And I don't know, maybe next year.
Yeah.
This budget runs through September 2022. So this time next year, the same process will be happening. And I've got a feeling that not much is going to change about the process.
The district was created in response to a rise in violent crimes in the 1980s and 90s. Fort Worth violent crime was an all-time high back then in 1992. It was actually, Fort Worth had the highest crime rate in the U.S. for 2 years.
I mean, it was just created as part of this whole war on crime, war on drugs that, we just toss money towards outcomes instead of trying to fix root causes, which is kind of the name of the game.
But Noakes said the crime rate, according to the Fort Worth report, when you click on the one in July, similar to an increase in violent crimes right now. So Noakes said that crime rates at the time are similar to the increase in violent crimes right now.
So what you're saying is all the money that we've dumped into this over 3 decades has gotten us nowhere.
However, from the most recent data from the crime data report, violent crimes in 2019 at a little over half of what they were in the peak in the 90s. So yeah, it just might be, I might not be even reading it right, but it seems like, it looks like data-wise, the crime is going down, but yet we're increasing funding in it. And I think there's a lot of things about programs. Like, eventually programs are supposed to run themselves out of business because you did your job.
Right.
But that never happens.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if we're talking like we've spent how many $1 trillion in Afghanistan over the last 2 decades, and that didn't go to Afghanistan, that went to private contractors in the U.S. that, then paid that money back to politicians to continue perpetuating things. It's the same blueprint.
Yep. Well, we can go ahead and move into the big story.
Yeah, let's do it. Something more exciting to talk about than this.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually excited for this. It's the innovation bug. UT Arlington became the first Texas university in 3 years to receive top state honors for research and academic advances. This was announced Thursday. UTA was acknowledged as a Texas Tier 1 university, meaning it has or exceeded benchmarks set by Texas higher education. I was trying to show like the parts why this is important is because in order to get this, you have to award more than 200 doctoral degrees. I wonder where TCU's at. That'd be interesting. Enrolling high-achieving high school graduates. They have a great pipeline with all the high schools. And then spending more than $45 million in restricted research. And by getting this designation, it gives UTA access to the National Research University Fund, which awards dollars towards emerging research universities in Texas. So kind of a big deal because they're on a short list.
The fourth to receive Tier 1 recognition, joining Texas Tech, UT Dallas, and the University of Houston.
UTA spent around $125 million on research last year, nearly half of which went towards the restricted and federal research. So all in all, what I'm saying, what's cool about here is like, and I think the conversation we're going to have is, even though Fort Worth will always be a TCU branded city, every great city has a great university, right? Every emerging high-tech, high successful city has a strong university that does research. I mean, a lot of people come from Stanford who created Silicon Valley, right? Austin has UT.
Rice and U of H in Houston.
Yeah, so unfortunately in Fort Worth, I don't actually think our entrepreneurial university is TCU. It is UTA. This is not a knock on TCU. I just think UTA has done a great job becoming a serious ecosystem for innovation. They got great faculty. I'm talking large staff for all the emerging spots, their diversity, the hunger of their students. It's actually a really exciting place to be, and it's super underrated because it's a satellite of UT system. But this is really cool.
Yeah, and I wonder with this coming generation, like they're seeing millennials struggle under the weight of college debt, and you see a school like UTA or UTD that is affordable, I mean, in the middle of a big city, but like still has a campus, like you can still get some of that like college experience with it, but you know you're going to come out in state without a ton of debt and with a really solid degree and some really great specialized programs. And so I wonder if we see the growth of these schools like really start to exponentially multiply, where in TCU's case, they've kind of banked building their growth off of the football team. And that's fleeting, right? Like when TCU wins the Rose Bowl, like that goes really well and you get more admissions and realistic, like your acceptance rate goes down. Like you probably have more talent that you're able to attract. And especially like California is like 40% of TCU student population, like something insane. So like you're getting a lot from more affluent areas, but it's fleeting because when you have 3 bad football seasons in a row, like the reverse happens. And so then what are you banking on? You're trying to build and develop things out of a pump that isn't pumping as much water or as much fuel anymore. Yeah. Whereas when you've got what UTA and UTD are building, like that's a foundation that you can really build a lot upon.
Yeah.
And diverse campuses, like something that's become things that are becoming more important to upcoming college age students. Like they're well ahead of the game there compared to TCU or SMU.
Yeah. And it's playing such an advantage. Like that's how innovation and sparks and ideas and that combustion of creativity and access to research and innovation and just boldness to want to do something. So if we ever have something that hallmarks Fort Worth as a software-based, a tech-based, an innovation-based company, it's going to come from UTD or a UTA for us. And I even know like some of our staff live in apartments. And when I go like hang out with them or say what's up to them, it's all like diverse, kids on visas, 4 guys in a room, and someone brought their whole entire family. Like these apartment complexes all through the highway intersection of DFW, all the way up from Richardson to Plano to Irving to Arlington, are actually filled with a bunch of hidden gem talent who are on here for like visas, going to school, getting their master's degree in machine learning and just crazy things like that. It's happening. However, I think, like you said, the TCUs, the SMUs, and I guess us of the world, like we just don't see it. But I think like there's a lot of magic that could potentially really make us even a stronger place to be, as Fort Worth already is.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't even really think of a school that has built their notoriety built their academic notoriety from athletic achievement.
Yeah.
Like it's not what, like that's not what follows. A lot of the larger, more preeminent universities across the country, like the academics are there and then athletics follow that, or athletics just happen to be there as well. It doesn't really go the other way.
Going with does it also have to do just with the strategy? Like TCU and SMU both their strategy is to be selective, be elite, provide that selective class feel.
Yeah, and the goals of it, like TCU doesn't have to continue to push the envelope because, you know, how big they have like a $3 billion endowment from only 71,000 living alumni, like something crazy like that. Whereas schools like UTA and these satellites of A&M and UT and other state schools across the country, like they have to grind to continue to get top professors to come, top students to follow them, to create top programs. I'm not saying that TCU doesn't have that. Like, they have a great business school. They're diving in. They just opened a medical school. Like, they have a solid nursing program. But it's not, like you said, like the tech entrepreneurial focus that something that a school like UTA is clearly investing in.
Yeah. I think it's exciting. And I personally, as someone who lives on the east side, I always say, like, people sleep on Arlington. I would argue that Arlington of the three could be the most innovative of the three cities. It's the 50th largest city in America. It's growing, but the crazy thing is no one wants to live there because it's still like kind of like run down, a lot of old retail, you know, but there's a lot of diversity, a lot of culture, but it's just like, it's so unpolished, like the rest of like Texas DFW is, but you have a lot of strong stuff happening, and it's going to be cool to see what happens in like 10 years. Yeah.
And I mean, there's always going to be money flowing into the city between, you know, the Rangers, the Cowboys. I mean, the esports stadium that's there, correct. Like that is an innovative thing that they have dove into and having events through that. I mean, Texas Live is obviously a huge thing now, and Six Flags. So like there's definitely ways that you can position yourself around the city. But I agree, it's my least favorite to drive through. Like I swear they've been doing the same construction on 30 for 10 years now, and like nothing has moved. So maybe one day that'll be nice, but who knows? But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that it's slept on and has some incredible food because of that diversity. It has some really, really strong hole-in-the-wall food spots, too.
There's a dim sum place I really like going to, Kowloon. Between 20 and 30, like right in that area, it's all like hidden good stuff. Want to move the wins and losses?
Yeah, let's do it. So, like, we knew that former Mayor Betsy Price was running for Tarrant County Judge, the seat currently held by Glenn Whitley, which is sort of like the decision maker for the county. And like she just launched her campaign website, and it is so partisan and so leaning hard into conservative values. And like even on the front page of the website says like, I'm a friend of Donald Trump. Like that was on the very first thing she posted from her campaign's like official announcement. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that. What bugs me about it is how for 10 years as a city we were gaslit into having to believe that she was some nonpartisan, I'm just doing the right thing type of person, and like that's just not who she was. And I get it, like it's politics, but we're staring at the same thing now with Maddie Parker, who anytime try to bring up Democrat or Republican, like she throws her hands up and says, no, I'm nonpartisan. And it's like, we've seen this playbook before. And so I guess my loss is just kind of like why can't we just like be real and open? Like, why do we have to try and hide this stuff when we know what the game is?
Yep.
And we could just be upfront and honest about it instead of creating distrust amongst the community because you are not acting in accordance to who you say you are.
And it says that the president said she's a fantastic friend.
Fantastic friend.
A fantastic friend. Wow. That doesn't just mean an endorsement or like that or like, oh, you're a Republican in a city. Sure, I'll write you a letter or tweet something. No,
Betsy's a fantastic friend.
We know this, and we know this with Tarrant. Tarrant County is really important as a county for politics, and Republicans got to do everything in their power to hold it. And so they'll play, they're playing away, but then they're playing some great chess right now.
Yeah,
like, I don't know if Democrats in Texas have any chess pieces on the board right now in Tarrant because they are destroyed. But yeah, my loss is, I guess, my loss is I'm glad kids are back in school. I guess my loss is I just hate that parents and teachers get pit against each other. Education, as we always talk about, is just in a hard spot right now. And I know that they had a mask mandate, then they didn't. There was a march for kids, and I just think that it's just kind of tough. So I won't go too much into it because I'm sure you, as parents or people, are hearing about it all the time. But it's a loss. And what are we up to? 1,000 Fort Worth ISD students and staff combined have already either has COVID or was around people who have COVID or quarantined and not actually going to class. So you're already seeing that happening too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big bummer. And like, how are we being so slow to make a decision on getting something virtual up and going again? Like, everybody involved acts like they want to try and like make up for learning loss of the last year. And that's been such a buzzword. And now you're just like continuing to create it more and more in such a big way.
Yeah. What's your win?
My win is there's just some cool stuff going on this weekend in the art world. Rambo had an installation down in the stockyards that, I mean, it looked like was really hopping. I'm bummed that it was only for this weekend and I wasn't able to make it out there. But then the Will Rogers Tower also had a super cool, innovative, like projection mapping design done on the tower that was from like 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. And as a parent of a 1-year-old, that there's no way that I was going to make it out to see that. But everyone that I've talked to that did said it was super cool and just like really cool to see the city doing the art scene have some cool creative things to, I don't know, just kind of like get the ball rolling on the end of summer and like moving into fall and just showing what the future could be.
No, absolutely. Really looking forward to it. My win is easy. Hotel Dries, Jonathan Morris, shout out. Doing something special in the city. Rooms are opening, I believe, the 20th. I think they just opened. So
I
you can
think
like
this
go
weekend.
online, Hotel Dries, book a room, do a staycation, or just hang out at the bar. It's cool to watch someone work on something so long, and like, but then at the same time, the game now starts. It's like, like building something like that is. So I mean, I'm so antsy and like now I would have been stressed out the whole time. But he seems like he had the mellow vibes, making it happen, inch by inch. So kudos to that team.
Yeah, definitely excited to stop by and check out the bar. Well, I know it's a short episode today, but we're excited for next week. We reached out and a number of you responded about making guest appearances on the podcast to talk about either whatever the big story is next week, or maybe we'll talk about like what has you really passionate and excited about what's coming in Fort Worth. But just excited to celebrate a year of doing this and get to have a number of y'all join us in that. If you're interested, hop on to Instagram or Twitter, reach out to the podcast or to one of us, and we'll send you the link to sign up for a 10-minute time.
Yeah, and it's been cool. I mean, so what we're doing next week is basically as many as we can in a period of time, do 10-minute interviews. And I know we already have 4 people signed up, but I think we're going to probably get up to like at least 6, 7. So we're going to be talking to a lot of people, hearing how they heard about the 817 podcast. What do they like about it? It's going to be fun, man. I'm super excited because I don't know those people. Like it's not like friends.
Yeah, they're strangers.
Yeah. They're legit strangers. Well, we're bonded. I know how you can feel bonded through a podcast. There's people I feel like I know, even though I've never met them. But, you know, there's a bond you have with podcast people. So I'm just excited to meet people. It's going to be super cool.
Yeah, I agree. And it may bleed over into the next week.
Yeah. To break it up.
Yeah, probably next 2 weeks coming of getting to hear from other listeners. So if you're interested, let us know, and we'd love to hear from you also.
Awesome.
See you next week.
Dopamine swipe, followers, likes, double tap. Now they control your life, control your life. Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe, followers, like, double tap.